Hi everyone, welcome to the session entitled AppDev Workflow Then and Now, session AQ. One of the presenters had a little bit of issue, so right now it's Craig on his own, and we're hoping that a reboot will resolve the issue. So Craig, how would you like to handle questions during the presentation or at the end?
There are a couple of natural places to stop during the presentation. So I'll be glad to take those questions then, and then obviously we can do them at the end as well. Okay. I prefer interaction actually, so we can answer questions. You know, there are some natural, like I said, places where people can ask questions, and we're glad to do that. I feel like that's better when somebody can get a question answered when they think of it, right? When they're in the process. So I'm fine with that. Interaction is preferable
Fantastic.
for me. Yeah.
So feel free to type your questions into the chat, and we'll deal with them as they come up. Thank you very much. Over to you, Craig.
Very good. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Let me get things going here. So thank you and welcome to the presentation this afternoon. My name is Craig Hilburn, and I have Tatiana with me. We will be presenting a demo. Hopefully we'll be able to show both sides. That's what we've been able to do in the past. Hopefully we'll be able to resolve any technical difficulties that we've had with some screen sharing. What we want to talk about is the AppDev workflow. We titled this Then and Now, so I am the then. You can see I've embraced the being a little bit more mature. So what we want to do today is show you how we can collaborate using some open tools in an AppDev workflow or tool chain. We're going to be collaborating on a COBOL program. We will update the program, then we will compile the program and then test it. Tatiana and I will collaborate in this effort using different IDEs, so different interfaces, so that we can demonstrate how you can reasonably put together this tool chain for your development team that may be in different, used to different interfaces and used to different tools. So that's really the goal. And hopefully we can answer any questions that you have. So real quickly, I want to talk about, these are really just a list. This is not supposed to be an all-inclusive list, but this is a list of the most popular tools that have been curated for Z. In the customers and people that we work with, there is usually some subset of these, not necessarily every single tool, but some subset of these that are part of the tool chain. And we will certainly be using several of these today. We'll use curl. We'll use some other things. We'll use Perl that's embedded. We'll use Bash. We'll show you very plainly how we can use Vim as well. So there are several things that we will use today in this tool chain, and hopefully it will give you some ideas of how you can incorporate these into your environment and your organizations. So when we talk about AppDev, what really is that process? So what we're really talking about at a high level is a workflow process where you could edit the source with the IDE of your choice. So whether it's direct, what I call heritage, you can use local remote tools, which I will be using today, which include things like Ziggy, if you have heard of that. We'll show you some how to interface with that. And then direct or remote, using things like Zoe and Vim, and Tatiana, being a newer programmer and interested in newer tools, she will be using those and demonstrate that clearly. Then, of course, we want to retrieve the source and collaborate. We want to be able to test, compile, build, deploy, and then update the repository. This is obviously iterative when in your DevOps processes, depending on what discipline within that genre that you actually adopt for your organization. You know, sometimes we just need a little reminder that sometimes we need some nice updates. We just need to refresh things And this is a nice little reminder of that, that we just need to be updated sometimes. This is an example of what I would call maybe an elementary DevOps tool chain. I don't mean that it's not mature in its process, but I mean that it is a simplified as opposed to more complex needs that an organization might have. So this really clearly demonstrates what we'll be doing today. It's a good example of that. We'll be working with MVS data sets, a combination of USS files where we have those open tools available. I will be playing the role, if you would, of the more seasoned programmer. You can see I've kind of embraced the look here. And then Tatiana will be over on the right there using things like VS Code and Zoe Explorer. This is just a good example of things that you can consider in your journey to a DevOps tool chain, combining open source tools with your ZOS system. This is a little bit more complex, and we will actually today, we will be using Make as well. So I'll point that out a little bit. We're definitely using Bash. We will be interacting with Jenkins and Jira. So we kind of have the entire ecosystem, if you would, of a somewhat medium to complex open source build tool chain. I mentioned over on the left at GitHub, so we'll point that out as well. Some type of GitHub repository, as you could have GitHub. We will be using Bitbucket today in our environment, but you have some choices there as well. So as we prepare for the demo, let me check in with Tatiana. Tatiana, where are we as far as your screen? Tatiana, are you able to share your screen when we're ready? Hello? Okay, we'll come back to this for questions in just a moment. Let me start. Tatiana?
I think she must be having all sorts of problems because I keep clicking the ask to unmute button from the co-host perspective, and she's still on mute, and she has left and joined a couple of times.
Okay, so let me do this then. I'll just go here and I'll begin. I'll show from my perspective. But I should have had this going 1 second here. That was one thing that I missed. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, what I'm doing is I'm logging into what is our Bitbucket repository. And here you can see several components. I want to point them out. This is the Ziggy, and I'll show a little bit more of that just briefly. This is some JCL. This is actually where my COBOL, COBOL program exists. And then we have Git, and these are actually files that are associated with, this is the account data, deposit data. So these are inputs into the testing that I need to do for the COBOL program. Okay. I'll pause briefly. Does anybody have any questions? You can see here that I have multiple projects. We'll be working with this COBOL example project today. Are there any questions? I'll pause just briefly to see if anybody has any questions that I can answer at this point. Okay.
Nothing in the chat.
Yep. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and log into a TSO session. You can see this is just a typical terminal emulation session. Wanted to show end-to-end just kind of what happens, that you can very plainly see Um, I've just logged into TSO. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into USS. I'm going to talk about this briefly. So you can see when I log into my USS environment on this help bar, I default immediately to bash. That's because we've done some things to install the tools within this directory structure and then also update my profile so that rather than using the default profile, I default into a profile that puts me right into the bash shell. I can really quickly, I'm going to list a few things and just show you that there are several things in my directory structure. You can see some Conda and other tools. These are obviously this is allowing me to interface, kind of defining my environment and my configuration so that I can interface with the tools, these open tools that we are using in the tool chain. Okay. Any questions? Going to go back over to TSO. And now what I will do is I will interact with Ziggy. I'm kind of operating a little bit blind here because I don't know exactly the status of the repo, but we're just going to step through this so that I can show you the components. And hopefully I can show you very plainly how I would interact with the COBOL program and test it, compile, test, do things that I would need to do in collaboration with Tatiana if she's made additional updates. So we'll do some things and see if we can't kind of show things end to end a little bit. A little
Hi,
bit
Craig.
about.
Sorry,
Hello.
I'm here. Yeah, I think I can share my screen now. Let me try it.
That's awesome. I'm going to stop sharing at this point because I'm really far down the line. And it would be better if we could pick up with your part of the presentation and the demo then. So I'll stop and pass it over to you. Thank you, Tatiana.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to turn on my camera because there are some issues with
Sure.
my laptop, but um, can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, yes,
Perfect.
great. Yeah,
Success. Live demos, right? They're always fun.
Yeah. So I'm a developer who is not comfortable with green screen, and therefore I use VS Code, which is one of modern IDEs. In this project, we work with COBOL code, GCL, and make files. VS Code has numerous plugins for syntax highlighting and auto-completion, but I use it because it has a very practical extension, which is called Zoe Explorer. You can see it on my screen, and this extension allows you to connect to your ZOS environment from your IDE, and it also allows you to manage data sets and USS files and start GCLs and so on. So yes, first of all, I want you see my VS Code instance started, and first of all, I want to obtain source code at my USS environment. Yeah, VS Code has a built-in SSH terminal, and I'm going to use it. I want to connect to USS system. Okay, I'm there. I run bash and I want to activate Conda environment to get access to the tools, to the build tools that we use. So in this project, I'm going to use Git, Make, curl, and Vim. Let's start with getting source code on USS. Let's go to this project and clone the repo from Bitbucket that Craig previously shared. Okay, I have it on my system, and let's see it via Zoe Explorer. So I open USS part, and I want to here to choose the same folder. And yeah, this is our folder. Sorry, this is our folder with data and with the COBOL program that we need to modify. This file actually contains the source code. This is make file that has rules describing. Yeah, it takes time. Rules describing how to build and how to test the COBOL program. And yeah, this is the text. And what I'm going to do, I need to here, and I want to see which kind of changes I need to make. Okay, I need to find this line and replace customer 5 to customer account. Okay. Okay, it's here, customer 5. I'm saving changes. Now I want to build it. Sorry, typo. Yes, the program was built correctly, and now I want to test it. I run make. Yeah, so we see the output, and it is expected output. So the changes that I made, they are correct. Now we want. Sometimes I work on systems that don't have IDE, and therefore I need to work with source code via SSH terminal. It is also an option. Let me open another terminal. The same one. I run bash, I run activate conda environment, and here I have access to source code via Vim editor. Okay. So this is the line that I modified via VS Code, and I also can do similar changes using Vim, for example, like this. But for now, I'm not going to save these changes. Just will disregard. As you can see, yeah. Now I'm running git status command, and you can see that after build process, a lot of new files were generated, and also binary file, and we don't want to add them to the repository. So I run make clean to remove these files. I run git status again to check what is left. Well, okay, I need to exit here. Okay. Yes, only one file is modified, the file with source code. I want to commit it and push to remote repository So yeah, currently it is placed just only in my sandbox, but I want to share the changes with Craig, and that's why I can add them to the repository and push to Bitbucket. Okay, changes are now on the Bitbucket, and I pass the word to you, Craig. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Tatiana. I want to pause here for just a minute. Does anybody have any questions? No questions? Okay. Let me pick up where Tatiana passed it to me. So I'm going to go back instead to the Bitbucket repository. And what I'm going to do is refresh. Make sure, because she made changes, right? And I wanted to have the refresh. And what I want to look at then is I should see a commit, because she definitely did a commit. So I'm working directly in Bitbucket. And you can see that I can see the changes here. These are the changes in COB rules in the COBOL program that Tatiana just executed. Notice this hash, I just want to point it out briefly. This is the commit hash, because we'll see that again, and we could do a comparison if we wanted to. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my Ziggy screen. So I'm going to enter Ziggy. If you remember, I accessed via TSO. Ziggy is a install here where I can interface basically using similar TSO and ISPF interface commands that I'm comfortable with, but I'm interacting, in fact, with the exact same components. So you can see I have the COBOL example repository. So this is the repository, and this is the project that we're working on. I can select that. We'll fetch things. I want to point out that this is all the same. So we're pointing to the same sources, same information. So these are all the same components. I can see the same components. But what I need to do is I need to pull the updates into this environment and make sure that I have all the most recent updates. And then I can compare and do some other work as well. So what I'll do is I'll do a pull from the remote. I want to make sure here, just a second. I want to check something. Okay. Oh, I don't want to do that.
General.
General?
Yes.
No.
4.
I can't see my screen. I'm apologize because I can't see everything here. I've got people's images all over my screen, but anyway, you can see the changes comparing. This is what I can't see. Things are hidden to me. Okay. So I'm confirming updates, comparing, and I also want to point out that this commit, this hash is here, and all of this agrees. Okay. To check one other thing. Okay, now access one more time. Want to check again. These are, if you notice, what I did was I went in and checked. I was looking at the -1 commit. Now I'm looking at all the updates, because what I did was I pulled in the updates. I refreshed my environment, refreshed from the repository, and then I see the updates that Tatiana made, the last updates, and looking. And if this aligns with what the work to be done, even I agree with it, or I could make changes, then I would approach that in that way. But you can see this tracking the changes, and I'm interacting with all the same utilities, all the same components in our project. Okay. Now I can access my JCL, and this is just exactly like I would be interfacing with the JCL in a regular TSO interface. This is my compile program, so I can show you that I can run my compile. Okay. I can directly submit it just like I would normally. Oh, that's not good. I got an 8 condition code. I have a problem. So I could go in and check my job to see what my condition code is. So let's go back and look at our source.
Okay, yeah, that's
Right.
right. There is a typo. So it should be 15.
15 here, right?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, so that's an example of what we could do as we collaborate. Say, oh, okay, now we need to make this change. We need to revert this back to whatever, and then we can make the change, right? So this is interactive and collaborative, like we've mentioned before. And you saw where I could test. I could run my compile. My compile said, oh, something's wrong. The compile didn't work correctly, right? Or I could make my changes and edit directly in my COBOL program. Okay. I could go here. Let's see, what was it? So I could make a decision, right? So I can decide, okay, well, you know, exactly what needs to happen here. Do I need to change my value? Do I need to change this? So what I'm going to do is this. Going to compile my program. And we get good condition codes, okay? So I've compiled. Now I would want to test again, make sure that everything's good. Everything tests out. and we confirmed that we've made the updates based on what the request was for the changes in the program. Going to stop here briefly. Are there any questions?
Yes, Craig. Why didn't Tatiana see the compile error when she made the change in VS Code? She did a build.
Yes, I did. Sorry, I did a build before. Well, I modified file after I did the build. And this is the bad practice, actually. And we just saw an example why you shouldn't do it this way.
Right.
So before you need to commit everything only after you confirm that everything works. But first I did the changes, then I compiled it work, and then I did additional changes when I
She used the second editor. She did additional changes,
and
and
I
yeah,
didn't confirm that they worked before I did the push.
right.
And this is what Craig caught.
Right. This is what I caught. So, the point is that in a collaborative effort, that's part of what collaboration is, right? And part of the process of checking, working together to make sure, was anything missed? What else? And typically, when we do this demo, what we're trying to do is show lots of options. And I think sometimes we do it one way, sometimes we do it another way, things like that. So, I mean, typically, sometimes when I make an update, I'll just cancel my update instead, right? And that certainly would have been an option for Tatiana, but in this case, in that second, when she was using that second IDE, that second interface, she did make a change. And as she said, she didn't do the second step because that wouldn't be part of normal process. But it points out this part of the process and the kinds of things that are possible, right, in a tool chain. Are there other questions? Any?
Nothing else in the chat at the moment.
Okay, I want to have this really challenge, I guess you would say, where I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment because I need to do a couple of other things, and it's hard for me to see everything that I need to get to. So let me do that. I may have to do this intermittently back and forth a little bit, and I apologize for that. It's just a little bit of a challenge when I'm sharing my full screen sometimes in some apps. We mentioned that we were interfacing with Jenkins as well. So I've logged into Jenkins. And then what I'll do is I'll pull up that task ID. And actually execute the build. That should not have happened. Do I need to, let me go back. Refresh. As I said, a live demo, sometimes. Let's try this again. Ah, very good.
Yeah, and now it
Yeah.
doesn't work, and because the changes that I did that are currently at the top of the repository, so they were broken changes. What Craig demonstrated in
Right.
when he shared Ziggy.
Okay.
However, locally I fixed my typo and I did another push. And if you run build again, it should work.
Oh, okay. So I need to refresh or just run build again. Okay, yeah.
Build with parameters.
Here we go. Okay. Perfect. Questions? We have one other thing to share briefly if I can get to it. Any questions? I'll go to Jira and just share
Actually,
that. Yeah.
I want to add that the part of this is a Jenkins pipeline, and you can set different steps there. And one of the steps is interaction with with Jira, which is our Bitbucket, which is our bug tracker system.
Mhm.
And there are different ways how to interact with Jira. And for example, we want to, every time when someone makes a build, we want to add information about this build to the Jira ticket. And this is the piece that we added to this Jenkins job. So Craig added specified ticket number when he ran the build, and also a comment. And now when we go to Jira, we can see that comment, which was posted actually automatically by Jenkins.
Right. And then let me go back. And you can see here what Tatiana was talking about, where I logged into Jira, I refreshed.
Can you scroll down the page?
Yep. And then
Yeah.
this was a test log. Can add a comment. And you can see here, this was the original case request, if you would. I could check this. You can see this was on the last execution. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Go back. And we'll pause just once again. Does anybody have any questions? Anything we can answer? Well, if not, that concludes our presentation for today. Thank you, Tatiana, for your help. And thank you all for attending. We appreciate it. And hope you've enjoyed the summit.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Tatiana. Yep, that concludes the GSE virtual event for this year. Everyone will have had an email to say that the presentation content, PDFs, etc., will be available for a couple of weeks if you aren't a GSE member, and the videos will be available for GSE members behind a GSE logon in the next couple of weeks, as all of the front stuff that you didn't see gets edited out. So thank you everyone for a super GSE virtual, and looking forward to seeing any of you, some of you, in November in Whittlebury in Northamptonshire. Thank you very much. Thanks again. Bye-bye.